The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello and welcome to One South Coast Chamber, the voice of business, Business Connect. I'm Mike O'Sullivan, CEO of One South Coast Chamber, and I'm joined today by our Chief Operating Officer, soon to be retired in a few months, Rick Kidder.
Well, hello Mike, how are you? It's great to see you as always.
I'm doing great. It's great to see you. Glad you could be here today. You've had lots of ups and downs in the last month or so, but it's great to have you back full time.
Thank you.
After having your knee replaced. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, this has been the year of have the hip replaced, then have the knee replaced. I'm running out of original parts, but actually I'm all the better for it.
Well, I believe in my younger days they would have called you the $6 million man.
Yeah, now that's up to about 60 million.
So welcome. It's great to see you. So one of the first things we thought we'd talk about today is the strategic planning process that the Chamber has been going through over the past 6 to 9 months. And you know, as I mentioned, Rick is retiring, and the strategic planning really helps us work to try to position ourselves and create staffing and just make sure that we're really ready for the future. So as much as we hate to see Rick go, we've got a lot going on with that, but we've come up with, we've got communications stuff we're working on. Mm-hmm. We've contracted with South Coast Media Group to help us with our search engine optimization, mm-hmm. all our social media, redesign our websites. We've got a lot of work to do there.
You know, one of the great things actually, Mike, about kicking the old coot out the door is that it gives you the opportunity to do exactly what you need to do to retune the organization. We did, as I think many of our viewers would know, we did the nearly impossible. We brought two organizations together, and in bringing them together, we came in with a co-CEO model. We hung on to all of the staff at that point, and then of course COVID got in the way and things changed. But you and I actually had an incredible opportunity to work together for 3 years through the pandemic to do the things that we needed to do in order to make sure that our organization was solid and strong. And now, as I kind of fade off into the sunset, one of the things that you'll have the chance to do is really kind of retune the team. And one of the things, and Mike, you mentioned it, we signed a contract with the South Coast Media Group, and they're a wonderful company based out of Mattapoisett. They are specialized in things like high-quality websites, in social media, in making sure that we communicate in a way that's both strategic and effective. And our strategic planning process really kind of highlighted that need. So now we see ourselves with this contract. We're going to have a brand new website, which looks really exciting in just its earliest stages. Our social media presence, which is for a lot of companies, that's the lowest cost marketing you can do if you do it effectively. We're going to be working with them on both the strategy and the content of social media to make sure that the Chamber gets its word out in the best possible way.
And we're very excited about that. And in addition to the communications and working on our marketing and social media, one of the other topics that really came up that was very, very important to our membership and our board and our executive committee is government affairs and public policy. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of interviewing and hiring someone to handle specifically. The position would be a vice president of public policy and communications. And we're really looking forward to that because that's one of the areas, government affairs. Well, we have great relationships with our legislators, and we're very fortunate to have a very strong legislative delegation along the entire South Coast, we're really looking forward to working with them more closely and developing a stronger relationship with town administrators, because as many people probably realize, with two gateway cities, Fall River and New Bedford, we spend a lot of time focused on Fall River and New Bedford. We need to focus more on some of the smaller communities as well.
Absolutely, Mike, because we serve 19 cities and towns, and we would be lying if we said we serve them all equally and well. That's where this position has really come in, and to be perfectly honest with you, we are now the second largest chamber in the Commonwealth. Large chambers like ours engage actively in public policy, not in order to be adversarial, but we do it for the purposes of representing the business community and making sure that our voice is being held. We are fortunate to be one of 10 chambers that have gathered together, excuse me, with some of the largest chambers in the Commonwealth spread throughout the entire state for the Chamber Policy Network. And that Chamber Policy Network is going to allow us to speak with one voice with the other chambers on issues that are important to everyone in the business community. We're not looking at becoming an endorsing entity. We're not looking at being a PAC or raising money at this juncture. What we're looking to do is to make sure that we can engage our legislature in productive ways that help the business community. And you know, there's nothing quite like being able to speak for 1,200 businesses instead of just speaking for yourself. And our small businesses don't have the luxury of that clout. So we need to exercise it in the best possible way.
And some of those topics that are coming out of the Mass Chamber Policy Network they're all related to business, but you've got housing, you've got transportation, you've got early childhood care, hiring. You know, those are some of the major topics that really are statewide topics.
They are.
And it's interesting to see that whether it's Boston or it's Fall River, New Bedford, and the entire South Coast, or it's Pittsfield, Springfield, no matter where it is in the state, they're all having very, very similar challenges and issues. And with their legislators, there's a wide variety of ways everybody's looking at trying to solve those problems, which is interesting to hear.
Well, and the luxury that we don't have is the luxury of solely saying this is good for business, therefore it is good for everyone. We want to do what is best for business, but at the same time we have to recognize that there's a lot of dots to be connected, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But there's a lot of dots within the community that help make the community better, that make it more attractive for business, that end up being initiatives that you look at first to say, how is this business related? And it turns out it is deeply business related because it's about the quality of life within the community. So we have to be a holistic kind of place for the betterment of the communities we serve.
We've always taken the lead on things like early childhood education and education in general, because they drive the economy.
Right.
The education system provides the workforce down the road, and early childhood care is, if the families don't have someone to watch their children, then the families don't come to work.
Correct.
And it is really that simple. So, you know, we're working on that. The state's working on that as well. They've put quite a lot of money into the budget this year to try to improve the early childhood care system. And we need to try, you know, we're working with the providers, we're working with legislators, and we're just trying to really figure out what's the best way to, to go forward in that regard. Because even though unemployment is down in the 2.6, 2.7% range, there's still a lot of people who say they can't find people to fill their jobs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when it comes to that education side, you talked about early childhood. The early childhood is where kids start. And kids who start behind have a tendency to stay behind. And it's important for us, as we look at these young people, as our future workforce. that they have the best possible start that they can in order to maximize their earning potential to support their families moving forward. So we have to be able to look we have to look generationally at improvements in our schools, improvements in access to early childhood education. Quite frankly, I think sadly for us, among the most important jobs in the world is working with our young people. And if you look at the way early childhood teachers are compensated, they're not compensated anywhere near on a level that befits their importance. So for us, it may not seem like a business issue, but it truly is.
It's actually, and COVID really taught us that it's one of the biggest business issues.
Yes.
It's very, minimum wage now is $15. Last year, or 2 years ago, the average wage for the early child care worker was around $13.50 an hour. So they were paid lower than what is now minimum wage.
Right.
You just can't do that, and families are leaving their most precious cargo.
Yes.
With people that are being paid $13 an hour, and it's still, the cost of running a child care is really high. It just needs to be worked, but you've indicated exactly why it's important to the business community, which is great. But it is a frustrating situation for many.
Well, and we were very much in support also of improvements at every level of education. We have a very active education committee, and that education committee kind of wrestles with topics not only education, but where education and business meet. As a recovering educator myself, I can tell you that educators and business people do not necessarily even speak the same language, and it's really important that business people understand the needs of educators and that educators understand the needs of business, because they are more hand in glove than anybody gives them credit for. People have a tendency to say, this is my business hat and this is my parent hat. Well, it's not true. Business really does depend on quality education.
Very true, very true. So, Rick, we've got a new hire at the Chamber. Why don't you tell us a little bit about our new friend, Cliff?
Yes, we hired a wonderful young man named Clifford Atherist. He lives in Fall River, but is based in both of our offices. And he is, it's an old position that's a new position. We've always had a wonderful person who sold memberships for us. That being said, selling memberships is not enough. And one of the things that we see out of COVID is the necessity and the challenges that small businesses have in making their decision to stay with organizations like us, to see value as they are stressed. And during the pandemic, we made a decision, our board of directors and we, at our recommendation, our board of directors made the decision that if someone could not afford to pay us their dues during that COVID period, we didn't ask them to do so. We held them on. We held on to them. And then, of course, now we're kind of in a post-COVID world. And we've discovered, like many organizations, and in fact, I think every chamber in the country has seen significant declines in their membership as the result, basically, of changing dynamics.
Right.
So when in our new position in hiring Cliff, and you'll get a chance to meet him on this show at another time, in hiring Cliff, we decided to hire both a director of membership and retention. Retention is, I think for any of you who are in business, you know it is easier and better to hold on to existing business than go out and get new stuff. And he will be responsible for going out and getting some new stuff, but he will also be responsible for reaching out to all of our members. In fact, I think by now he has, by telephone, reached out to every single one of our members. And in reaching out to them, just touch base. A touch means an awful lot. Anybody who has been in business knows that if you touch your customer occasionally, there are good things that happen when that happens. So this new position of the Director of Membership and Retention is really going to be designed around, and his compensation is designed around holding on to our existing business and building new business as well.
And he's off to a great start.
He is. He's off to a remarkable start. We've also seen that that with this economy as it's evolving, we have the need for diversifying our sponsorships, for finding ways that our small businesses can sponsor events or parts of events to make sure that they can get their name out there and use us as an advertising vehicle. We have some very, very high-profile events, and we'll talk about some of them at the end of the show. But we've got some high-profile events where small businesses may want to have a piece of sponsorship, and that's a way of getting their name out. So we're going to be looking at our diversification of our sponsorship as well. And Mike, as you well know, one of the things that's important to us now, and it came out of our strategic planning as well, is making sure that we can appeal to market segments within our membership, because we're pretty generic.
We're generally used to dealing with the masses, and that's not the way we are anymore. In fact, we've got this great program which is sponsored by National Grid, where if you are a National Grid customer and a chamber member who has less than 50 employees, you are eligible to apply for a $1,000 grant from National Grid through the chamber. We can give out up to 100 of those grants. We're very, very excited to be doing that. We've got about 50 applications so far. So anybody that's interested in applying, you can go to onesouthcoast.com. It's literally the first thing you see on our web page, on our home page. Just click on it, and the application's there. The application process is very simple. You just need to be able to get to download a copy of your National Grid bill and a W-9, and there's one or two other things just information you need to fill in.
Yep, it could not be simpler. And one of the things that we're looking at that is we look at our National Grid service area, which is largely the western part of our territory, which is Fall River and Seekonk and Swansea and parts of Westport, Somerset. When you look at those, there may be businesses out there that aren't members of the chamber. So let's do some math. If you joined the chamber for, say, $325, and you're a National Grid customer, and you can fill out a W-9 because you're an incorporated entity, you can join the chamber, apply for the National Grid $1,000 on the same day. And I don't know about you, but that nets out to $675 you didn't have before, for which are unrestricted dollars to the small business.
Exactly. It is that simple, and I don't know too many people that wouldn't want to have an extra $675.
Nope.
Unrestricted. That's the good part, because we have had people say, oh, I already did mass save in my building. I can't save any more money. I can't be more efficient. And we've explained to them, it's not about mass save. It's not about being efficient. This is something that National Grid knows that the cost of heating and electricity has skyrocketed, and it's their opportunity to give back. And we're proud to be one of 10 chambers in the state who they've partnered with to be able to do this. And we're really happy to be a part of it. And we're going to start distributing some of those checks next week. We're going to have a lot of fun as our friends from National Grid come down and we give out the checks.
We've had one of those big checks made.
Yeah, and it looks great. I don't think you've seen it.
I have not seen it yet. I saw the mock-up, but I haven't seen it.
The actual check is on the table outside my office, and it looks fantastic. Katie Green, our Director of Programs and Events, did a fantastic job laying it out, working with Potter's Printing, getting it done. It looks great, and we're excited to be, to start distributing that money next Thursday.
It's fantastic.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's going to be fantastic, Mike. And all of this is kind of talking in some ways about appealing to market segments within our organization. As I think just about everybody knows, the Chamber of Commerce is open to any business, which means that of our 1,200 members, we have everything from the largest businesses in our region to sole practitioners and everything in between, and in every kind of business category known to man, which means that we're, quote, a generic business organization. So it's important for us sometimes to reach out and grab for some of the market segments that we have, whether it's in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's in the areas, for example, coming up in August, we're going to do a panel of family-owned businesses, because family-owned businesses are a different kind of thing from businesses that are traded on the stock exchange. It is very, very different. So we're trying to reach out to different segments within our membership and appeal to them in ways that we had not before. But also, Mike, your good work and the good work of Patty and the good work of Ashley and others within who operate on programs out of our foundation have done some amazing things. So why don't you kind of recap where we are on that one?
Well, Viva Fall River is doing great. In fact, Patty Rigo, the executive director of Viva Fall River, on August 15th, I think is the date, is going to be honored by the City Council for all the great work that she's done in the city, promoting the city, building up the city. You go to the waterfront at least 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. And it's really more, but it's at least 3 times a week. It has become such an incredibly vibrant community. You used to get, the gates would be used for, a couple times a summer. Mm-hmm. Now it feels like the gates are busy every week. You've got the Thomas Norton City Pier, which mm-hmm. was just opened last November. You've got, they had kite night there last week. They have yoga there on Mondays.
You participate in the yoga, right?
No, not me. But thanks for the invite. But what you're finding is that we're getting a lot of excitement along the waterfront, mm-hmm. and it's really just Patty's doing a great job working with local businesses and chamber members to create more parking. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. Because it's not there's not a lot of parking on the waterfront, but there's a few businesses that have very big lots, and mm-hmm. Patty's just using Viva Fall River and working with those folks, and these are family-owned businesses that mm-hmm. have they have a great interest. Yeah. In seeing Fall River do great things. So that's going very well. And on the FRAC, the Fall River Arts and Culture Coalition side of things, Ashley is right smack in the middle of working on the mural projects. Mm-hmm. I haven't heard the announcements yet, but I know that this week they were supposed to be going through the process of looking at the applications for potential artists, people who have applied mm-hmm. to be the artists of 2 murals, and from
what I understand, there were like 13 applications put in for 2 mural slots. Yeah. So people are really interested in having these.
Yeah, a few years ago, if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, there was a tremendous amount of people in the arts and culture industry, but it was not coordinated as well as it is mm-hmm. today. And it wasn't getting nearly the amount of grant money that it is today from different organizations, including the state. It's doing it, as a result, and it's getting so many people that are participating, and the interest is great, and a lot, those folks are going in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Ashley's got programs over the course of the year where they're working with people, with artists on, how do you start a business? How do you build up your business? You've got, they're just doing the right things for the community.
Well, I think most of us have seen, if you know artists well, I happen to be married to one. If you know artists well, the business side of things doesn't necessarily come as naturally.
No, it's definitely not as natural.
They know how to create, they can do beautiful work. They don't necessarily know how to market that work. They don't know how to sell that work. They don't know how to incorporate themselves, how to set themselves up to succeed.
Yeah.
And these are essential skills for these artists to be able to learn the business side of art.
Right. Yeah, and Ashley's working really hard on that. She recently got a diversity, equity, and inclusion grant from the Community Foundation, which I believe part of it's funded by the Barr Foundation. I hope I got that right.
I think you did.
But what's exciting is that Ashley, and she's going to work with the Chamber on putting together some programming that is DEI related, that brings the artists in and can bring artists closer to the business community, so that they can work together, help each other. Sometimes if the artists get to know the business people, all of a sudden the business people become a lot more interested in maybe having a mural and public art on the side of their building.
Absolutely. I know we want one on our building.
We really want one. But we're waiting.
We don't get special treatment.
No,
in
we're
this
not.
process, no.
No, we're not. Unfortunately, we're not. But it's exciting stuff. So there's a lot of great things that are really happening across the board at the Chamber. So why don't you talk about some of the other events that we have coming up?
It's funny. Usually July is a pretty quiet time for us. People go on vacations. Our own staff takes vacations. The business community, I think this is a time when people kind of concentrate on family, getting away if they can, or getting to the beach if they can't. And so we start to gear up again come August. And on August 15th, we have our South Coast Business Builders Breakfast coming up. That is a wonderful networking event for our small business members. It's always with a great partnership with one of our restaurants. And this one is actually going to be at the Cottages in Dartmouth, which is a senior living facility, which means they have good food, and it should be a great event. All of our events, by the way, are on onesouthcoast.com. Then we mentioned the market segmentation. On the 17th, we're doing a panel on our Good Morning South Coast series on family-owned businesses. It's important that those family-owned businesses have a chance to hear from others. And so we'll have Todd Blount from Blount Fine Foods. We're going to have Brian LeCompte from Gold Medal Bakery, Allie Weiner from Sid Weiner and Sons, and Heidi Milhenge, from Milhenge Company, on a panel to discuss those. Now, we party a lot too, and we do our end of summer bash at ServPro coming up on August, at the end of August. Again, sign up for that, onesouthcoast.com. Our businesses are still saying they need workforce, and so we're doing a job fair on September 14th. And the event of the century is our 18th annual Blount Fine Foods New Bedford Seafood Chowder Festival, Chowderfest as it's called, which will be on City Pier 3 in New Bedford on Saturday, September 30th. Be there, show up hungry, and if you want, get the VIP experience because it will rock your world.
Thank you, Rick. We greatly appreciate your time today. I'm Mike O'Sullivan, CEO of One South Coast Chamber, and this is Rick Kidder, Chief Operating Officer of One South Coast Chamber. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.